And now a border update from the American Information Minister.
Charge from the Congresswoman that the White House hasn't taken up recommendations from fellow Democrats on how to deal with this issue more through executive action or otherwise because of concerns of how Republicans might react. We would say what?
I would say this. The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. He really has. June saw the single largest month-to-month drop in unlawful border crossing because of the policies this president put in place. We've got a record number of federal agents and officers, more than 24,000, working to secure the border because of the funding this president secured. We brought 21 world leaders on the West Coast, as you all remember, together for the first time to deal with this issue in a regional way because of the alliances that this president has put forth, and we secured record funding for border security and management. And let's not forget, we've expanded the pathway to citizenship under this president. And mind you, he's been doing this on his own. Does he want to do it in a bipartisan way? Absolutely. That's why he put forth his first piece of legislation to be on immigration, to fix this broken system. We are willing to work with Congress, with Republicans. We need Republicans to do this. We just do.
Huh. Wow. A lot of interesting stuff, Stead, there. Let's break it down with Mark Krikorian. He's the executive director of the Center for Immigration Studies, and he joins us now. Mark, good to have you with us, sir.
Glad to be here.
All right, so what I just heard her say, let's begin with the big headline. She claims Biden has done more to secure the border, to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. True or false?
False. I think she misread her notes. I think what they'd written down is he had done more to subvert the border than anyone else, and she just sort of read the notes wrong.
Generous of you. So it is just amazing, though, that she can stare at the media and us by extension with a straight face and say that the Biden administration is doing more than anyone ever has to secure the border. I mean, at this point, they'll say literally anything, won't they, Mark?
Yeah, I sure think so. In fact, I don't know. My sense is she isn't bright enough to follow this strategy, but I get a sense that they just figure they are free to say the most absurd, ludicrous, obviously untrue thing and basically dare you to disagree with them, at least dare the media to disagree with them. But the fact is that even the regime-friendly media are publicly now starting to say that this is baloney. This week, both the Washington Post and CBS News released information that, just underlines how much the border is falling apart. Washington Post got leaked numbers for August from the Border Patrol, showed a 30% increase in total illegal arrests by the Border Patrol, on top of a 30% increase in July. And about half of those people, about 6,000 illegal aliens a day on average, and about half of them were people bringing kids with them, the migrant family units, they call them. And the reason is that if you bring a kid with you, the odds are something like 90% that you're going to be just let go into the United States.
Yes.
So why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, a child is an easy pass into the country, and a lot of people are using them for that reason. And that has created a tremendous human trafficking problem too, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because, some people, when they pay for a smuggler, they're getting what they paid for, and they pay their money, and they, get where they're going, and that's the end of it. But it often doesn't turn out that way, and ends up with exploitation. People are held in, debt servitude. People, in the worst case scenario, you end up with sex trafficking and what have you. So the idea that this administration is pursuing some humanitarian policy is ridiculous. The number of the number of deaths at the border, the amount of exploitation of illegal immigrants on their way here is also at record levels, along with and because of the record level of illegal immigration that this administration has essentially invited.
I saw that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did an interview with the New York Times in the past week, and she was asked about how the Biden administration is holding a lot more illegal immigrants in detention than the Trump administration ever did, and what is she going to do about it, and is she ever going to go to the border? And she's, she expressed some gentle concern about it, but she's not going down to the border anymore and crying in front of a fence and acting like it's the most horrific thing she's ever seen, calling it a concentration camp. We're not getting any performances this week. Mark, what do you think that is?
Well, of course not, because this was all just about politics. If Trump did it, it was bad. If Obama or Biden did it, it wasn't bad. And the fact is that even folks like AOC and other people on the, really hard left, they know that this administration isn't, tough on immigration. In fact, to the degree that they complain about what the administration is doing, or you're detaining too many people, or ankle monitors are inhumane, that's the latest thing. It's just to make sure that just to keep pressure on the administration. You know what I mean? So that they weaken border control even more, and they aren't tempted to tighten up.
Yeah.
Because of, political reasons. So, AOC knows this is BS. And so she's, it's all part of a political strategy.
I want to go back to something Karine Jean Pierre said a moment ago, too, in that audio I played that I thought was really interesting. She said that Biden has been working hard to and has already, quote, expanded the pathway to citizenship, she said, for many of the illegal immigrants pouring into our country. What that means in practical terms, in very real terms, is Biden is granting amnesty to broad categories of foreign nationals. And ultimately, if you're given some sort of legal status in the country, that puts you on the track towards citizenship and voting in our elections in the future, doesn't it?
Well, yes and no. The fact is that the White House press secretary really isn't the brightest bulb in the marquee. And the fact is the administration has not put people on any formal path to citizenship. She's just using that because it's a cliche phrase that, that they're supposed to say. What they have done is given some kind of work permits or other ability to live here to an unprecedented number of people illegally outside the immigration law. During this administration, so we're talking 2.5+ years now, they have let into the country, taken into custody, and then released into the U.S. close to 3 million illegal aliens. Those people, some of them have work permits, some of them don't, but they're here forever. And so if there is a path to citizenship, it's basically that Democrats in a few years, especially when there's a Republican administration, are going to start demanding that they all get green cards as well.
Yes, and a green card is the start. The green card is the start of that chain of
events. Of a real path to citizenship, exactly. So yeah, it's this is, she's saying the president has done this on his own, and he really wanted Congress to come along with him. He doesn't have any right to do this. The law requires that an illegal border crosser or a person who comes to a legal crossing but has no right to come in, that person be detained until their case is over. And yet they've released almost 3 million people now into the United States illegally. This guy is running a shadow immigration system. And, Karine Jean Pierre basically just admitted it, but says that that's a good thing.
And Mark Krikorian, when they do talk about this to the extent that they're forced to, they often say that what we need is a legislative solution and Republicans aren't playing ball, so the problem continues. But that's all one gigantic euphemism for we want amnesty for illegal immigrants in the United States, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. Well, in fact, it's more than that. They're saying we aren't going to enforce the law until you give us amnesty, and then there's no illegal aliens, so there's no law to enforce anymore.
Right.
They're holding enforcement of the law hostage to their demand for amnesty. And that bill that she referred to, she said, the president's first legislative proposal, that would have given amnesty to every illegal immigrant who had entered the United States before 3 weeks before the bill was introduced. And in addition to dramatically increasing legal immigration, and didn't even have pretend enforcement provisions in it, like some of these earlier amnesty bills did.
And also the idea that you could establish that somebody was actually in the country prior to the Biden administration and didn't come in after is preposterous. The whole illegal immigration industry is predicated on falsified documents.
Yeah, and as we saw when this happened, the last big amnesty we had was 1986, and a huge share of those people were using fake documents. There was a whole section of that amnesty under President Reagan where farm workers got amnesty. And it was so riddled with fraud, people got green cards even though they claimed that they had dug cherries out of the ground as their farm work, or they had picked watermelons off of trees. I swear to God, these people got green cards.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, it would happen again, obviously. But the point is, we shouldn't even be having that discussion. How can you even bring that up until you achieve control over the border first?
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking at a number of headlines. Democrats across the country, these are now state and local Democrats, who are panicking about the state of illegal immigration in the country because now it's affecting them. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey has activated the National Guard to assist in emergency shelters housing illegal immigrants in her state. Now, they're complaining that Texas has moved too many of these illegals to Massachusetts. New York also panicking. New York Times headline this week: as migrant crisis worsens, New York leaders pressure Biden to do more. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy suggesting just yesterday that his state can't handle any more illegal immigrants into his state. What do you make of all these Democrats who, if I remember correctly, were all saying that they were sanctuary cities and states before? Now, not so much.
Yeah, it's all fun and games until the illegal aliens start showing up in your community. You know, back in the 60s, they used to say that a conservative was a liberal who got mugged. Well, it's sort of a similar thing here. All these sanctuary jurisdictions are getting mugged by reality. And, you know, they're using Texas and Governor Abbott as sort of a punching bag. But even, let's say, in New York, the vast majority of this latest wave of illegal aliens from Biden's border crisis who've gone to New York have not been bussed by Texas. They've just gone to New York because it's a sanctuary city and, you know, it's New York. And, you know, if you're a foreigner, the one place you'll know in the United States is New York. You know what I mean? So this is a problem of their own creation. And up to now, pretty much all the demands from these blue state politicians have been for more money. Give us more money, more taxpayer money to, you know, cover the costs. What they need to start doing, and Mayor Adams of New York has sort of started to tiptoe in that direction, is say, you need to change your immigration policies so that these people don't show up here in the first place. Fix the problem.
Yes.
Don't just give us money to mop up the problem, because it's never going to be enough.
One of the central complaints that Phil Murphy has here is that the Biden administration is apparently, reportedly, considering relocating illegals from New York City to Atlantic City International Airport. The airport is one of 11 federal sites, Politico reports, that the Biden administration has sent to the New York City mayor's office that are under consideration. So do I understand this correctly? The Biden administration is planning on building encampments for illegal foreign nationals all over the country?
That's what it seems like. I mean, you know, why don't they just do it at the border, have detention facilities, set up the tent, you know, buildings. They can do that. They've done it in some places. And hold them in detention and make clear that they're not going to be let go if they make some bogus asylum claim. Instead, they're building basically Bidenvilles around the country. And that's not going to solve anything. And it's basically they're responding to whoever is complaining first and loudest. Mayor Adams is saying, oh my God, I can't handle this. So they're saying, okay, well, we'll move them to New Jersey. And now the governor of New Jersey is saying, wait a minute. Don't bring them to my state. This is, you know, NIMBYism, not in my backyard, on steroids. And why don't they all just say, okay, we need to shut the border down so that nobody has this problem?
So what's the answer to why they aren't doing that? Like, I mean, at some point when the dam is breaking like it is right now with all these high-profile Democrat officials across the country, you have to say, okay, we've got to do this. Are they that wedded to not admitting defeat on this subject, or are they that invested in what they think the long-term gains of illegal immigration will be for the Democrats? What is it?
Yeah, I don't think it's either one of those. I mean, maybe part of those two things are what it is, but the main thing is ideological. It is now a litmus test issue, like abortion, that limits on immigration are immoral. The immigration law itself is seen as equivalent of Jim Crow in basically mainstream Democratic officialdom. And so they see, back in 1980, I'm again going even further back, Jimmy Carter had a migration problem called the Mario boat lift.
Yes.
120,000 Cubans showed up overnight in Florida at Carter's invitation. And he was like, oh my God, this is a disaster. I have to do something. He was able to backtrack and do a 180 because the Democratic Party hadn't become the anti-borders party yet. He had flexibility, political flexibility. They can't now. Remember, in 2016, they were all running for, in the primary, they all raised their hand, give illegal aliens Medicaid. They all raised their hand when they wanted to end border crossing being a crime. So what could Biden do, even if he wanted to? I'm not sure he even knows what's going on. But putting that aside,
yes,
even if they wanted to change because of the political problems it's causing them, I don't think they have the political room to do it.
And the politics of this used to be, at least for Democrats, the simple-minded answer was they thought they were appealing to Hispanic voters by being this permissive of illegal immigration. And the reality, it turns out, was that Hispanic Americans hate this. They are turning in record numbers towards Republicans now. And lastly, if this is ideological, this is the rotten fruit of constantly crapping on our country and saying it doesn't deserve good things, and that it barely deserves a border, and that we just have this awful history. Eventually, you come to the conclusion that we don't deserve to protect ourselves and have sovereignty, and that's where they are.
That is literally where they are. They do not think the American people have the right to say no to somebody who wants to come here. That is now a bedrock, non-negotiable principle. Not among Democratic voters necessarily, but among anybody who wants to get anywhere in Democratic politics. And that is not something you can split the difference with. There's no compromise there. You could compromise with regular liberal Democrats and say, okay, well, we'll have a little bit of amnesty and a little bit of this, and we'll each get something and split the difference.
Yep.
You can't split the difference when they do not believe America has a right to have borders.
No.
How do you compromise with that?
No, even Bernie Sanders sold out on this. He was one of the last ones to do it. All right, Mark Krikorian, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you today, sir.